Hello everybody and welcome back to 2BeLikeChrist. When you find a hard section of the Bible, if you don't know how to interpret it, just take your scissors and cut it right out. Okay everybody, in all seriousness, don't do that. In today's video, we are going to deal with one of the least hardest, yes I said it, the least hardest to interpreteth verses of the entire Bible. This may be one of the most practical videos that I have ever made, and the reason for that is because this is probably one of the most practical verses in the entire scriptural canon. This is about Jesus' statement in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12, also known as the Golden Rule. So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. And all that I want this video to be is an examination of the implications of what the world might actually look like if people listened to Jesus. If other people were to treat others as they wanted to be treated, there wouldn't be any murder in the world. Because you know what? I don't like to be murdered. And I'm going to guess you don't either. If everyone treated everybody else like they wanted to be treated, there wouldn't be any theft in the world because we work hard for the things that we have and we don't want other people to steal them. In other words, the police would have no job. There wouldn't be any more lying. Everybody wants everybody to be up front with them. They don't like to be lied to, and neither do I. If the Golden Rule was followed, we wouldn't have a problem with drunkenness. When you're drunk, you lose control of a lot of your faculties and your judgment, and you start interacting with people and people's property in ways that you otherwise wouldn't, and a lot of times that's for the negative. And I don't know that I really have to prove that to you. Just watch the news or listen to enough college stories and you'll find out that that's true. There also wouldn't be any bitterness or grudge keeping. Because when I've done somebody wrong and I go up to them and I apologize, what I want them to do is to fully forgive me, right? So we can restore our relationship. So if somebody comes up to me and apologizes to me for something that they did to me, and I am bent on treating them the way that I want to be treated, then I will fully forgive them, and there's no more room for bitterness and grudge keeping. So I have a question for you, maybe a little bit of a taboo topic. And that is, well, what about sins that only affect me? Like watching pornography. I'm not doing anything to anybody else, I'm not harming anybody, so that doesn't necessarily apply. But I'd suggest to you that that does apply. And if we were all good keepers of the Golden Rule, industries like that wouldn't even exist. Here's why. Do you want other people viewing you as nothing more than a piece of meat for their own personal viewing pleasure? No. Industries like this one undermine the intrinsic value of being a human being. And rather than seeing people as souls, we're viewing them on much of a more a base level. And buying in and encouraging this type of an industry is really promoting this idea of human beings as just kind of disposable. Not to mention that it also bankrupts marriages. So, if we were keepers of the Golden Rule, that kind of nasty bit of life wouldn't even exist. All right, how about another one? Gossip. Do you just love it when people get behind your back and trash your good name without you being able to defend yourself? I didn't think so. One charge that gets leveled against the church all the time is that everyone in the church is a hypocrite. Finding out whether or not that's a grounded accusation is not the discussion of this video. But I do know that if we were keepers of the Golden Rule, it wouldn't be a problem. We want to believe that when we meet somebody, it'll be a genuine encounter, and that we can have a real relationship with them. And as Christians, I think this is especially important. And so, just as we don't want other people faking it in front of us, we would return that favor then, and we would show them our genuine selves with all of its mess and maybe imperfections, but it would be a true representation, and hypocrisy wouldn't be an issue. Adultery is getting to be a bigger and bigger problem in our culture, and this is like obvious target for Matthew chapter 7, verse 12. Do you want somebody sleeping with your husband? Or do you want somebody sleeping with your wife? No. Don't do it to other people. All right, but how about this one? Just general sexual immorality, right? We're not talking about married people here. We're talking about single people. What's the harm if I am in a consensual sexual relationship with somebody outside of marriage? How is that harming anybody? And how does the Golden Rule even apply to that? I think if you take a good, close look at what God says in the Scriptures, what you'll find is that participating in something like that is a harm to one of God's greatest pictures of love. The unity of men and women in marriage, part of which is that consensual sexual relationship, is an illustration for us and for the world of the love of Christ and His church. And we know that that relationship is a sealed, unbreakable covenant. When we take pieces of marriage outside of that wall, that structure of a lifelong unity between people, what we do is we make that appear non-committal. And it's no longer an everlasting covenant between two people up until death do them part. It's just kind of we'll keep going with this thing if we feel like it. We're also in a lot of ways making it more about lust than love, going back to that kind of cheapening of the human identity. We're saying, well, I want parts of this union, but I'm not really willing to make a long-term commitment to you through thick or thin. We're also dislocating one of the beautiful aspects of marriage and putting it out of place. And because we're doing that, we're cheapening it. When we think about treating other people the way that we want to be treated, one of the greatest things that we can do for them is to give them a big, beautiful image of God and a big, beautiful image of marriage. Both of those things have kind of been cheapened by our culture. And when you have a beautiful picture of marriage in your culture, you're going to get a beautiful picture of the relationship that Christ has with us, with His church, and the fact that that is an eternal bond never to be broken because Christ has made the commitment. He has made it truly valuable. And so think about that in terms of treating other people the way that you wanted to be treated. People need that image, and we're harming it when we cheapen it. All right, how about another one? Ambition. You say, wait a second. Ambition's not a sin. Ambition's a good thing. My response to you would be, well, it can be and it can't be. The golden rule is going to guide us in how our ambition manifests itself. You see, if we don't have any respect for what Jesus says here in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12, then our ambition might manifest itself as stepping over top of people to make it to the top. Right? But if we are respecters of Jesus' command here, we're going to be ambitious in a way that lifts other people up with us as we rise. And so everyone is lifted up, everyone is treated better, and our ambition is more of a godly ambition than a selfish ambition. The golden rule is also going to keep us from neglecting some things that God tells us to do. Right? Those sins of omission. For example, evangelism. We would want somebody to tell us about the hope of Jesus if we didn't know already. We're never going to neglect evangelism if we have respect for Jesus' words. And here's one that you might not have thought of. Worship. We are not going to neglect worship if we're keepers of the golden rule. You say, why is that? And the reason is because worship reorients us to who we really are. I think one of the greatest hindrances or roadblocks for people keeping the golden rule is pride. Right? We start to think that others owe me or others should do things for me because I'm really a special individual. And the world and Satan tries to puff us up with pride. Worship then reorients our minds. We go to worship on a Sunday or whenever, and we go to praise something that is so much bigger than us. And it brings us down and it humbles us. And it's when we're humble that we're going to look at the golden rule as something beautiful and something that we can do in our own lives because we see how much God has done for us. We're humbled by that, and then we go out into the world to spread that same kind of attitude. And one last one. The golden rule is going to keep us from growing weary in well-doing, or in other words, not doing things that we know we should do. James chapter 4, verse 17 says, "So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin." Let me know in the comments down below if you've thought of any more applications for this verse. And there's a million of them. So many that I didn't mention. And so use your brain and figure some of those out and write them down below so that other people can learn from them. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share this video. I hope that something in here has been helpful to you. And thanks again for watching this channel. Bye.